But we also have with us, he's stepped out of the wedding he's at today to be with us. It's John Harrod Booth, ladies and gentlemen, to tell us about the specification. Guys, what's going on with the release schedule?
Thank you, Paul. I'm not at a wedding today, but that's fine. So I'll run you through a few slides concerning data specification update. So those of you who go onto the GitHub site will have seen this sort of table about the release schedule, and it reflects what John Cooper said earlier on. So we are in the process of releasing 3.5. Documentation is out there already, and that'll go live in integration at the end of September and in production at the end of October. The expectation is that 3.4 and 3.4.1 at least slated for deprecation in the spring of 2026, but I will say we're open to stakeholder feedback and comment on that as we move forward. Next slide, please. You may have seen this content already. It's reflected on GitHub. So the changes that we've made between the last version and 3.5 in general are relatively minor. So this sort of delves down into every nook and cranny of changes that have been made. One of the things that we've had to allow for is that we've had comment from both National Highways and TfL that they generate maintenance style TROs, which at the time of making actually have no specific data in terms of when particular closures may occur. They're more sort of facilitation. So the example that TfL gave to us was that they have one of these for Westminster Bridge, and they then use another mechanism via Streetworks to notify when actual closures are going to occur. And so we've provided a mechanism and guidance to be able to manage those sorts of TROs, so that the ability to provide that information at time of making is available, but also to be able to do updates later on when more specific timings are known within the context of that. We've done some additional extensions in relation to other forms of condition that might exist in terms of regulations or exemptions. We're certainly aware that there are some that relate to things relating to emissions. So Bath and North East Somerset have some of these, and some of the London boroughs do. So we've provided mechanisms to be able to qualify those sorts of conditions and exemptions. Similarly, with electric vehicle charging, in both cases, we're open to looking at these with future releases. If people come back and say, actually, the mechanism we use is not included within this, then we'll aim to introduce those. Next slide, please. We have to allow for the things we haven't foreseen. We have the ability to do various extensions within the scope of the data model already. So, for example, if you define a vehicle type that we don't have in the data model already, there is a mechanism to be able to extend and specify a new vehicle type, for example. But we also have to allow for the fact that you may have a form of condition that is not covered by what we already have. We have plenty in there, and if we regularly see that people are using other things, or there's a need for other things, or stakeholders raise that, then of course we'll aim to adjust the specification as we go forward. But there is now an additional other condition that exists in there. Hopefully it won't get heavily abused. There is a possibility of that, but it's really there to capture unusual things which you may wish to try to let us know about. Again, in response to user requests, we've extended the forms of well-known text coding of spatial coordinates that we support. So we previously supported point, line string, and polygon. We also now support multi-point, multi-line string, and multi-polygon. So I'm certainly aware that some of the DSPs have wished to supply those sorts of geometries. So we've done that extension. We've added dial-a-ride, which is a fairly obvious one, into the vehicle usage type. Again, if there are other things that you see and you feel are missing from various lists, then please let us know. We will try to introduce them as soon as we can. Very minor, we've changed the data type. That's probably in the realms of the extremely detailed stuff. We've also removed support for provision of elementary street units. I know provisioning of USRNs causes some discussion. We actually inspected and saw that nobody was supplying anything to do with ESUs, which is not very surprising. So we've actually just removed that. There's no point having bits of the data model that serve no function. So we've taken that out. And then finally, where we had a user request. Previously, we had speed limit profiles specified by road category, and we had a request saying, could you please provide one that's not categorized? So there is now a national speed limit profile. It does imply that the data consumers have the ability to identify the classification of road that this applies to, because of course they would then have to figure out what the consequence of that is in terms of the speed limit. But it was a user request, so we've introduced that.